Okay, our server booted here. So let's get back into it. Remember, we're going to use that input command, input control alt delete. We're going to input our password. And now we've added those services. We've installed those services successfully, and we've created the Cybercraft domain. Now we can go to local server. We can see our domain here, cybercraft.com. So that means that happened successfully. So fantastic. Now we have this computer name here. We can change that name if we like. So we can change that, but we'd have to do that before we did the domain controllers. So let's go ahead and go into our Active Directory and create a user account. Now these can get a little messy here, so if you want, you can adjust these window sizes, and I recommend you do so. And from here, you can find the domain controllers. Here's our domain controller for our computer. That shares the same name as our server here. And then we can also, go back to the overview and get into the Active Directory. So let's go ahead and get into our Active Directory and create a new user. So we're going to go to Tools, and then we're going to go Active Directory Users and Computers. From here we can see cybercraft.com, and we can go down to Users. Now there's going to be built-in users, built-in accounts. We see we have our administrator account. Then we have a guest account. Now it's ideal normally to disable the guest account, change the default password for some of these accounts, especially the administrator account. But let's go ahead, and we don't need to worry about that because no one's hacking our home lab. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new user here. Okay. So we're going to create a user, and you can select which container this user would be in. You can also create a new group. So these are managed by groups. There's administrator group, and there's other key groups here. But let's go ahead and create a new user. Let's name that user just John Smith. Now, my name's Dennis. I'm not John Smith. We're using this as an example. John.Smith@cybercraft.com. This would be their login name. We go ahead and click next. We can set their password, and we can tell the user that they have to change the password the next login, or we can uncheck that. Let's uncheck that because we want to set the password here. So we're gonna I'm gonna make it a little easier. And I'm going to set this password up so I can then later do a demonstration on it, because this is not a very strong password. So here I'll show you the password I'm choosing. Okay, so we're going to click next. Full name John Smith, login name john.smith@cybercraft.com. Sounds fantastic. Let's click finish. Now we have that user. We can add them into a group by right-clicking, say add a group. And we can find a group that we want to add them to. So we can add them to the administrator. And we could type in add and we hit check names and we find that group. We don't necessarily have to do that. I want to keep this person as a user, so I'm going to leave that there. So we have John Smith. That's a new user. Now we want to connect. We have everything completed so we can connect our Windows 10 device to the domain. So let's go ahead and start doing that. For those of you watching the live stream, this is a continuation of our series on how to build a professional cybersecurity lab. So please watch the previous live stream or use the link in the description to find our course, How to Build a Professional Cybersecurity Lab, on cybercrafttraining.com. It's an excellent course where we teach you how to bring all these devices together and how to create a unified solution, unified home lab that you can then use to practice penetration testing. And this will tie into a lot of practical scenarios that we do. So with the live stream, I'm recording these videos right now as part of the course, and I always like to do that as part of the live stream. So I hope you're enjoying. If you have any questions, please drop a chat or send me an email, info@cybercrafttraining.com. Okay, so now we're able to, let's get into the point of connecting that Windows 10 device into our Windows Server 2019. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we're going to go back to our virtual box and we're going to power up the Windows 10 machine. So we have our Server 2019 running. We can leave that running. Let's also start our Windows 10 box. Okay, so once this comes up, we're going to go into the network settings and we're going to add this to that new Cybercraft domain that we created. And you see the current login is just user, but we're going to be able to change that login once we connect to this domain to that John Smith account that we just created in Active Directory. So we need to do that through our network settings. We're going to open our network and internet settings here. We're going to do advanced network settings. Properties. You can also do this if you want by going into your, by right-clicking here. You can go into Device Manager, Computer Management, or even Network Connections, just by right-clicking on the Windows icon. And we can also just type in the search bar, though any more Windows likes to make the search bar a little more than what it used to be. We can have go into the search bar and type in system. So there's a couple different ways to get that. We can get advanced system settings. You can also access this through the control panel. Okay, so from here, we're going to go into our work group. We're going to change this to member of domain, and we're going to type in Cybercraft. We're going to click OK. Well, before we do that, we do need to change our internet settings. So I pulled that up first here. And we have to go into, first we want to disable IPv6 because we're going to be connecting through IPv4. It's going to make it a little easier to connect to our Windows Server 2019. If we disable that, And what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the settings for IPv4. Go to Properties. And what we're going to do is we're going to assign an IP address to this device. So we're going to assign an IP address. I'm going to assign this one as 192.168.1.10. And for each Windows device on this that we have on our network here, I'm going to go up from 10 onwards. Remember, our Windows Server 2019 is 1.1. This one's going to be 1.10. Now we're going to have our default gateway 192.168.1.254. It's a Class C network here, as you see, by the subnet. And for the DNS server, we're going to put in the DNS for the server. Okay, it's going to be 192.168.1. Remember, our server was .1. And for an alternate server, we can put in that Google DNS server. But by putting in this DNS server here, we're enabling the connection to our Windows Server 2019. So we're going to go ahead and close. Make sure those settings are applied. Now let's go back. We'll go back to Systems. Remember, you can go, we can even get this from the control panel, or just make sure you spell things correctly and try not to let Windows open up Bing to search the internet for what you're trying to do. Okay, so now we're going to a member of domain Cybercraft. We're going to go ahead and click OK now. Now, if you get an error like this, don't panic. You want to do a few steps. First, you want to make sure that the machines are able to talk to one another and that your settings are correct. So we're going to open up ipconfig. And then let's do the ping command to ping that IP address for the server and see if they're able to talk. And if they are not able to talk, then we might have an issue with the firewall or the connections. Okay, so great. So they are able to talk. We've pinged that server successfully. And let's do the same thing from our server side. Okay, this looks good. The IP addresses are both correct. Let's ping our Windows 10 device. Uh, 10. Okay, and here's a problem here. While we're able to ping the server from the Windows 10 device, we're not able to ping the Windows 10 device from the server. So we need to troubleshoot that issue. And I like to throw in a wrench in this step because this is where a lot of people will get a problem. So let's first look at the firewall. Okay, so we have our firewall on. So we're going to create a firewall rule in our firewall. And we're going to create a new rule here. We'll create a custom rule. Protocol type any. And we're going to put in our IP address from the server. So we're allowing any connection from 192.168.1.1. And we're also going to add, let's see, we've added that for local IP addresses. We shouldn't have to add anything. We'll keep this as NA for remote. That's fine. And we're going to allow that connection. We're allowing any connection for connections coming in through that IP address. That's going to be the main, private, and public network. I'm just going to give it a description. Make sure that firewall rule is on, domain controller connection. That's correct. And that is enabled. Okay, excellent. All right, we're going to exit Windows Firewall. Now let's go ahead and try that ping again. Okay, and we're still getting an error. So we still need to troubleshoot this issue, and that's okay. Because now I get to show you how to create a rule within our Windows Firewall. So let's double check our settings here. Okay, and we have our firewall connection up on our server as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another rule on our server side. It's going to be an outbound rule. We'll create an outbound and an inbound rule. It's the same step. Custom, next, all programs, protocol number, it's fine, next, IP address, and we're going to put in the IP address of the Windows 10 machine. Okay. That's fine. Allow the connection. And you can just give it a name. Okay, and that's there. Create the same thing for our outbound rule. Make sure when you create the outbound rule, you change that default. It's going to default to deny. You want to change that to allow. Okay. Both of those are enabled. Outbound rule and inbound rule. So we're good in there. We're going to exit. Let's double check, see if that resolved the issue. And sometimes in networking, you have to just go one step at a time until you resolve everything. So we're still getting that unreachable. We have our firewall rules on either side. So we do need to troubleshoot this issue. Let's go ahead and go through the next troubleshooting steps. So from here, we're going to have to adjust a few different settings. I want to verify that we're doing network sharing. Now that could be a problem. And let's verify that we have the correct adapter settings set up in our virtual machine. Settings, network, bridge adapter. Okay, that's fine. And then same here, settings, network. Okay, NAT. Got it. Okay. So I think that may be our issue here. Is that we haven't set up the network connections correctly for the virtual machine on our Windows server. All right, let's try a ping here. Okay, so now we're getting a ping back from the Windows 10 device. So that's working. Let's see if it's still working on our Windows 10 side. Okay, so now the two machines are able to talk to one another. So what we needed to do there is we needed to set the proper settings within our virtual machine environment. And this is where you can get in some problems, because you have to not only consider that you are creating a network, but you're creating a network on a set of virtual machines. So you have to get the settings exactly correct on the machine and on the network itself. So I got a question in chat. Yeah, that's a great question. So the difference between a cybersecurity engineer and a network security engineer, it really depends on what systems you're working with. If you're a system administrator and that's what you want to do, you can make a very good salary. But those jobs have been established for a number of years now. You know, those are very established positions, almost like help desk tiers. So in my opinion, you make more money focusing in cybersecurity because there's so many positions that you can do other than just administration. So getting into cybersecurity, you can get into risk management, you can get to penetration testing, all these different disciplines within the field. I think that's where you can get more bang for your buck, just getting those cybersecurity certs. If you just want to focus on system administration and network security, you know, those roles have definitely been established for a long time. So when a role becomes established for several decades, the salary kind of gets flushed out. You know, corporations determine the best way to pay their people the right amount so that they don't have too high a turnover, but they keep people that can do the job. So that's where you see, I think, the workers lose out. Where you see the workers gain is where you have a corporation that doesn't really know what to pay. They don't know what their expertise should be. So that's where you get these niche roles, or a company has a major breach. They don't know what to do. They know they need to hire cybersecurity, but they don't know what for. That's where you can get those high-paying roles. So your firewall specialist, okay, that could be very helpful. Yeah. If you're good with firewalls, then you just want to add in some additional certifications, maybe to focus on risk management, so you can speak more to like senior leadership, or maybe some more non-network certifications. If you want, you can even go. You can go into data security or cloud security with that firewall experience and focus on like web application firewalls. That could be a useful path for you as well. Your CCNP, that's a good cert to get, especially if you want to focus on networks. But if you want to break out of networks, you can easily do so with that networking experience. Everything starts with the network. Yeah, I think a firewall specialist can definitely say they're in cybersecurity. So if you wanted to pivot your resume to something else, I think that's a good chance, a good way to do that. Okay, so now as you see, once we've... Okay, so now what we've done here is we are joining the domain Cybercraft. We've done some troubleshooting. We've determined our issues, and the issue was with our virtual machine. So the settings that we had within VirtualBox, we had not correctly configured our Server 2019 with this wireless network access. It was set on NAT, not bridged adapter. So once we changed that, we were able to get successful pings on the Windows 10 and the Windows Server 2019. So now what we're doing is we're joining this Windows 10 device to the Cybercraft domain. All we do is we go into System Properties, in Computer Name. Under that, we go to where it says Workgroup. And we're going to, instead of put this in Workgroup, we're going to put this in Domain, and we're type Cybercraft. And we hit OK. Gives us a place to put our user and username and password. Remember, we made that John Smith account. That's our user account. So we go john.smith, and then we put in our password for that. And I typed in that password earlier. This doesn't have to be a super secure password. Do I have... I can't do that yet. Okay. So you can't copy, from outside your virtual machine unless you set up certain settings and then put it back into the machine. But that's okay. We know our password. It's not a very secure password, and the reason for that is we're going to do some demonstrations on how to find that password and crack that password later. Okay, so we've inputted our username and password. It's going to join this domain now, and once it does that, we'll be able to go to the next steps. So we just need to wait for a moment while that's... Yeah, so I'm going to take some questions while we're waiting for this because it's still going to load. Firewall engineers, I think you got a really good demand of the future. So you can definitely mix that in with another certification. But what firewalls are you good with? Checkpoint, FortiGate. Yeah, I would try and get some other certifications or other training to give yourself more experience outside of just firewalls. I think that would really help you. Because if you just focus on firewalls, most likely you'll work in like an operations center, or you're going to work for a very large company that has a need and they need a specialist for firewalls. If you branch out a bit, then you can really be flexible, and you can leverage that firewall experience somewhere else. Yeah, cloud security is a great one. CompTIA has some nice certifications, and ISC Squared too. There's a Cloud Plus with CompTIA. It's really good. You get to work with Azure and AWS there. And CCSP, Certified Cloud Security Professional, is a really nice one to pick up for ISC Squared. So if you're looking for that training, Cybercraft offers both of those courses. We do boot camps on those and self-paced training. But yeah, looking good. Okay, so now we've successfully joined the Cybercraft domain. It said, welcome to the Cybercraft domain. That's fine. Cybercraft.com is what we want. And we're going to restart the computer to finalize those changes. Once we restart, we're going to be presented with our new login, and we're going to have the opportunity to log on to the domain with the Server 2019 serving as our domain controller, because we set that domain controller up within Server 2019. So let's just have this restart here. ISPs, if you just want to be firewall for an ISP, that's fine. But if you want to command a higher salary and field more job offers, and then I would recommend getting other types of certifications, and particularly a cloud certification to broaden your horizons there. So, if you want to specialize in ISPs, you're pretty well set. But if you want to branch out or take in more offers, I would recommend going that route. Okay, so our Windows 10 device has just restarted after we changed or we joined the Cybercraft domain. Now here we have two options now, and we used to automatically log on because we just had the user. Now we can select other user and we can log into Cybercraft. So we go john.smith and we use our password and we can sign into the Cybercraft domain. Now this is now a user machine. We got to make sure we're connected to our domain. Let's see. So if you get this error, that means you're not successfully, you have a connection error to your DNS server. Let me make sure the password's correct though. So we do need to troubleshoot that a bit. So we'll go ahead and log into the user account for now, and then we'll troubleshoot that issue. While we're waiting for this to log on, yeah, you know, if you want to get that cloud security certification, would definitely be a good idea because everything, like 95% of networks anymore are hybrid clouds. They have some cloud component to them. So it's really a good idea to get some sort of cloud credential because almost every company has some cloud use or cloud need. Okay. Let's make sure our adapter is working correctly. This is our IP address, and that's our DNS server. That should be correct. Let's ping that DNS server, or ping the server 2019. Okay, that ping's successful. Let's go ahead and ping the Windows 10. Okay, request timed out. That means there's another connection issue. So we troubleshooted this before. Let's make sure this is correct. And I'm gonna have to restart this because we changed the adapter settings on the virtual machine. Now in the meantime, let's double check our connections with all of our other virtual machines. Yes, I'm from America, yeah. Well, you know, okay, sorry, the stream was lagging a little bit today. I think YouTube's being somewhat laggy today. I might have too much running at the same time. Okay. So that works fine. So let's go ahead and shut this down, save some resources. We tested our Metasploit Metasploitable earlier, so that should be working just fine. Okay. Okay. Let's make sure our... Okay. And this might be the problem here, that we don't have network discovery on. That should be on for our server and for our Windows 10 device. So for some reason, this got turned off. Let's save those changes. Okay, and let's try again, logging on with our Windows 10 device. So we'll sign out. Remember, when you input, if you need to input, use that input dropdown. We're going to select other user, john.smith, and we're going to select our password, the password we set before. Okay, there's still a problem with the domain hosting. Let's take a look at our... So we still need to troubleshoot this issue. An SD-WAN engineer. I'm going to take some questions here. You know, CEH, that's a good question about CEH. I have a CEH myself. I think a lot of the stuff they teach anymore is a little outdated with CEH. I mean, with the different types of attacks that they're teaching there, it really depends on, you know, most modern phones are going to be able to stop that and in the operating system itself. So really, I think they should be teaching the fundamentals, not specific payloads, because when they teach specific payloads, then those can quickly become outdated. Okay, so that sharing needed to be enabled there. Best hacking attacks. Let's see. You know, I think a Pen Test Plus from CompTIA is pretty good. Those, you really get to work with like a good attack methodology with that one. I think a best overall, more advanced certification for cybersecurity would be a CISA Plus that teaches you practical experience, a CompTIA CISA Plus. You can also get CISSP that's really theoretical based. You know, I teach CISSP. It's not very technical. The technical side, I think you're going to find better with like a CISA Plus or a CASP, a Certified Advanced Security Practitioner from CompTIA. Those have the technical piece along with kind of the managerial side. CISA Plus is excellent for analyst, cybersecurity analyst plus. If you're working in an operations center, you want to get a more advanced role at an organization, but you want to have the hands-on experience and then you want to be tested on that, and then I definitely think CISA Plus would be really good. Okay, so even though our domain's not available, that's not a problem. The fact is we've connected to the domain, and this device is still searchable. It's still connected. We got to troubleshoot that problem, but overall, we're in pretty good shape here. Now, what we've done so far is we've created our machine. It's using our existing internet connection off of our host machine. But what we can do if we want to make this a sandbox environment is what we can configure this to be self-contained. In order to do that, what we're going to have to do is create a network manager. Okay? And we're going to have to create a new one with a DHCP server from scratch. And if we do that, we can enable this to be a self-contained network where the devices would only talk to one another. As it is now, these devices are using our network adapter to communicate with the outside world. So, if we went to cybercrafttraining.com, they'll actually that might be our issue, actually. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and troubleshoot this. It's going to take me a little bit. I got to do that offline. It's great having you guys. And if you have any questions, or if you want to take the course, please click the link in the description. We also have our community, the Cybercraft Training community. So, I invite you to join that, ask questions there. We have the Discord link in the description. Be happy to have you. Have a great time, guys. Good talking with you. And have a great afternoon.